but it won't be too long. Welcome back to DOREEN'S African Experiences. Let's see. So, uh, I go through your comments, and this is where I get to the topics of discussion from. This information might not be useful to you right now, but I promise you, if you plan on building, and especially if you're building for the first time, this information is very, very crucial. And even those that are not building for the first time, keep in mind that construction is progressive, you know? You can always make mistakes, but how can you avoid making the same mistake over and over again? Construction is not one of those things that I recommend to learn from experience, because the experience of construction is very costly. If every time you must learn from your mistakes, then you're going to lose a lot of money. Normally, I advise that you learn from other people's mistakes and do better. Okay. So today we are discussing the different mistakes people make before they start building, and these mistakes cost them heavily. They actually impact the process in a negative way. And also, come say hi. Hi. What's up? And also, how can you avoid them? First and foremost, the biggest mistake we make is land itself. You can buy land, but not paying attention to the type of land that you buy can actually cost you much, much later. Okay? What do I mean by the type of land? It is, if you have the option to buy land in a dry area, please take it. Okay? Sometimes I know some of these land types are very cheap. Like if you're buying in a swampy area, it will be cheap, but it will cost you way more later. Because someone who is building on dry land, their material is different from you who is building in a swamp. What do I mean by their material? If you're building in a swamp, you might need aggregate stones. Aggregate stones are expensive. So to top it all up, the person who bought like in a dry area, they can use red bricks in their foundation, or clay bricks, preferably, whichever they are more comfortable with. And this reduces on expenses in the future, in the long run. Okay. And also the things you have to do to your building as someone that's building in a wet area are not the same things that someone that's building in a dry area has to do. Preparation is different. So please pay attention to the type of land that you're buying. And it's important that when you're buying this land, make sure they at least have a road, a proper road, because it will also cost you money to make a road for your trucks to move material. It looks like a very small issue, but I promise you, as someone that's in the field, the amount of chaos that goes into moving material is insane. And people's trucks can die as they come to deliver material to you. These things all, they delay and slow you down. And also, it might become hard for you to even transport the right amounts of material. Let me give you an example. There are times when you're building something big and you need a Sinotrack to save on costs, right? But because the type of land that you bought the road does not favor these trucks, they can't come to you. In fact, trucks, the bigger the truck, the more complex, or rather the bigger the road. I don't know if it makes sense. If you're moving a big truck, it needs a big and stable road. Yeah. So someone, before delivering material to you, they'll first come to see the land that you have and see how the road looks, where they're going to put the material. And these people, it's not even about money. They'll easily tell you, Doreen, oh, mosquito. They will easily tell you, Doreen, I am so sorry, I'm unable to transport material to your site because the road does not favor my truck. What does that do to you? you end up having to buy smaller portions of material, which costs you more. And then more chaos, more hectic. So the smaller the quantity of material, the more costly it becomes in the long run. You might be buying that elf truck, that forward truck of sand. It seems cheap, but in the longer run, it becomes very, very costly. So type of land is very, very important. I think I'm back. I think I'm back. My internet was acting up. Okay, now let me continue recording. All right, the second concept, the second mistake you make before building that can actually cost you heavily, uh, failure to acquire a proper house plan from reputable sources. Most of you don't have house plans when you're building. What are the challenges of not having a house plan? You need to understand that the earth keeps moving. So how do we hinder your house from being affected by the earth gravity? When you have the right calculations, the person who is building your house is going to base on those calculations because they are accurate. And the reason for these calculations is to make sure that you raise something that is safe, first of all, for you, something that's not going to be affected by the Earth's gravity, by the weather, like environment itself will not affect this. So without the plan, the proper plan, you're just building from your head. You're just imagining things. You don't have any mathematics to align your building. Like your walls can be uneven. You can have, first of all, you can have uneven walls. You can have crooked walls. Your walls don't have lining. Like you're missing a lot of things. So a proper house plan is a must. And obviously, legally, you could also get your house plan approved for your own security, because if you don't get the house plan approved and you pay that tax or those taxes that the government actually requires you to pay, it will cost you much more when you're done building. When you go to the city council with a fully built house present and you didn't acquire your house plan prior, especially in these days, yeah, it will cost you way more. And it is risky as well because the council can decide to come and demolish your building if you don't have proper house plan approvals. So there is also that. So avoid that mistake. And yes, I also work with a team of people that draw house plans. So if you need a house plan, you can always contact me. My number is always in the bio. And yes, I also work with a very talented, skilled group of people that can actually build houses. So we build houses, we assess buildings, and we get proper documentation for your buildings. Okay, so we're done with the land, improper plans, then cheap contractors. Now, it is okay to save, but you need to know when to save. I'm not saying look for the most expensive contractor because even that one might not be good at what they are doing. So always try, don't just choose a contractor because they are cheap or you think that's what you can afford. Sometimes construction is already expensive as it is. If you go under the belt so much, you cannot blame the outcomes of your investment. Sometimes you will find someone that's cheaper, yes, but they have no experience in what you're trying to build. Okay. And when they, if you're lucky, because contraction should go with experience. I don't know if that makes sense. Building is it's a practical line of work, construction. So if you hire someone just based off you being able to manipulate them and manipulate the prices, not based off mutual understanding and experience, you're going to face very many challenges because the cheaper you go, sometimes it costs you. Like, you know how they say cheap things are expensive? Yeah, that is very true for construction, because I promise you, you get a worker that will charge you even 20,000 a day to do your building. But I promise you, when they have no experience, like they can't lay corners, they can't lay edges, they can't even level the house, like they don't know. They're just starters in the industry, like babies, you know? And the sad part is they won't tell you they don't know. Then you'll be like, you even, some of you even go ahead and brag, like, yeah, those guys were expensive. I got like cheap people. It's okay to get cheaper people, but make sure the cheap people that you're getting are actually experienced and well versed in whatever kind of job you're giving them. Okay? Because sometimes even us, we lower our prices because you can have a dry season. For example, this is a dry season when there is no a lot of work going on. So when someone comes with a project, as long as you're making some money off it, you take it. You don't always have to make so much money off every project. And also, this is a challenge in the industry, because a lot of people in the industry, once they make names for themselves, they become impossible to work with. They start just working for the money, not for the project. They have very standard charges, and they're not flexible in their charges. That is also another challenge. So it's okay, you can always look for someone cheaper, but make sure this cheaper person is actually well versed in the project, the type of project that you're going to give them. So, and also I can promise you, sometimes not everything that's expensive is worth it. Okay. Weak foundations. Now, this also comes from experience. A lot of things can cause a building to have a weak foundation. One of the things that can cause your building to have a weak foundation, one, you don't have proper plans, proper house plans. Like the building has no proper plan. Some of you are using downloaded plans. These downloaded plans are not even quantified sometimes. You're just assuming, right? Before a plan is drawn, a lot of things go into consideration. Mathematics does not just get imagined. When you say, I want a 3-bedroom house, stop begging people for their plans. Some of you are very good at this. You go around begging people for house plans, not knowing the house plan you're begging was designed for someone who is building like in a wet place, right? The elevations are different. The calculations, the angles, everything is different based on where you're building. This person could have been, their house plan could have been designed for a hill, but you're on flat land. And then you end up building something that's costing you more than it should because you're busy. You like, I can't pay someone maybe 1M, 2M, 500, 800 to do for me a house plan. Let me just, when my cousin just built the same house I want to build. Okay. You and your cousin or you and your friend, are you building in the same type of land? Are you having, do you understand? Are your elevations the same? Is the weather affecting all of you the same? Do you understand these things? So when a planner is actually drawing a house plan, they base on so many things. So it's not just a 3-bedroom house. No, there is a lot of factors involved in drawing a house plan, creating these mathematical elevations and inclinations for you. It's not just a drawing. This is a collection of mathematics that's brought to your attention for your own benefit based on your exact need and location. So keep that in mind, right? So when you have poor plans, your foundation is definitely going to disturb you. Number two, incompetent contractors. You're hiring people to build for you because you don't want to pay them well. You're willing to work with the cheapest people possible. Of course, they're going to give you a very bad project, especially when these people tell you straight up that this is very little for the work. I always advise people, construction is a process. Before you start to say, I want to build, there is a thing you have to do first, planning. Planning is crucial to construction. Just because you have money, don't just build because, oh shit, I have so much money right now. Let me just build. No. First plan, sit down and plan. Identify what you want, where you want everything to go in this particular dream house of yours. Do you want to have like how many doors? Like plan for yourself. Then carry your ideas to the planner and then show the plan exactly what you want. The planner will do a site visit, determine the land and everything, look at the type of soil, see where the inclinations should be. Is this necessary? It's not. Where should the house face? What's the best possible direction for the house to face? All these things are based on mathematics, because if you face your house in a direction that is not favorable to the math on the plan, the house itself is going to be affected by the weather. Yes, nature is cruel. The earth keeps moving. For you, some of you, when they give you a house plan, you just wake up and you're like, I want my house to face down. No, just because you want your house to face down doesn't mean it should face down. The calculations should reflect that this house indeed must face down, or face up, or face east, or face. These things are not accidental. They are not accidental. Okay? So, over there. Then we proceed, foundation issues, yes. Then the fake materials. The material, now, I wouldn't say there is such a thing as fake material, but I would say poor quality materials. Now, when you're buying material, again, most of you are too cheap. Because you already know construction is not, especially if you're just building a house to sleep in. There are no profits for this. Now, most of you are looking for the cheapest possible material. When you're buying sand, they'll give you different grades of sand, mm, and the different prices. Like, give me the cheaper one, the other one, that yellow one. And you're like, okay. And then you bring it on site, and the person who has to use it to build does not have time to sieve it because the grains are too big. There are grains you can't properly build with. Keep that in mind. So most times you're giving the builders extra work that they shouldn't be doing. Most of them, if they're kind enough, they will sieve that sand for you, right? But that takes a lot of time. It does. So most of them will just build with it the way you've bought it. And now what happens between the blocks as they build, yeah, your mix is hollow. Your building mix will hold, yes, but it will be porous. And then after some years, you have a house that when you speak to it, when you speak, the house speaks back at you, and you're like, why is this house hollow? Why? You know? Why don't the walls of this house retain heat properly? So many things cause this. And eventually you realize that because it's porous, over the years, if the weather really, really gets to affect it, especially for those of you that don't want to plaster your houses, it starts to get weak. And then what happens? Weak cracks everywhere. And then what happens? The walls are absorbing water. And then what happens? You have airbags in your walls. You can't breathe. You it's cold all the time. So sometimes material is crucial. And another thing, most of you are over mixing your material. Because again, construction is something you should plan for. If you're not ready, wait. Or you do it in phases, right? No one is forcing you to build so quickly, But you get one bag of cement, you want to put in 6 wheelbarrows of sand. Yay! 8 wheelbarrows of sand in one bag of cement. Yet cement is actually the element that is supposed to hold the mix together, to give it the glue. That's the glue of the mix. So when you overstretch out the glue, what is going to happen? You're just stacking sand on top, blocks, sand, you're just stacking up. You're not building, you're stacking up. And then what happens? When you roof, depending on what type of roofing you're going to do, eventually the wall is going to start crumbling. Weak walls, cracks. And after some years, it will collapse. Because you're cheap. You're looking for easy ways out. You're over mixing. The people are not crazy for telling you the proper mix is this: 2 sand, 1 plaster, 1 bag of cement. That's it. That's your proper mix. That's the most standard mix. Okay? 1 bag of cement against 2 wheelbarrows of lake sand against 1 wheelbarrow of plaster sand. Whatever for plaster sand, you must double for lake sand. Yes. Why? It's the grain also, the type of grain helps to hold the cement more firmly. These things are not accidental. They don't make them up. So please, if you don't have the right amount of money to do a project, you'd rather wait. You'd rather plan, wait, and then do it in phases. There is no rush. If you think there is a rush, then you go ahead. But the repercussions later will come. It will come. Construction is like pregnancy, you know. As you do whatever you do, you expect the outcome is gonna be like this. Hi, Teddy. Okay, so we've talked about the mixers, and then we have, again, this material is everything. Poor quality blocks. We talked about that in one of the previous videos. I told you that if your blocks or the blocks that you're using are not are not well cured and well compressed, they are going to disturb you as time goes on. Again, the cracks in your wall are not accidental. They are not. And all this takes us back to planning and a proper house plan. Yeah, those two things are different. To plan is for you to assess what you can do, what you can't do. Doreen, which sand is better for the foundation? Is it trailer or Katesi sand? Trailer, obviously. You mix. It's a mix, lake and plaster, okay? But Rela is good. But there is also other sand that is good. The thing is, you have to try and avoid big grains. Omusenyu empeke zikoma okuba enene, it makes it almost impossible for the mix to hold firmly well without creating holes, airbags in it. I don't know if it makes sense. So Rela has a small grain, and the grain is more favorable. But there is also other sand, because you might not have the money for Rela, but there are other alternatives, you know. And most of you now, they are selling to you plaster sand as lake sand. What they are doing now, when they harvest plaster sand, right, they wash it. They wash it, and then it washes away the clay elements, and then you have a small grain left. Some don't wash it, they just leave it there, pile it, and the more it rains. So when you come to buy it on the outside, the huge stack looks like it's lake sand, but inside it is actually clay. Remember, plaster sand is just clay. It's like when you're extracting, when you have a piece of land like this, and you start extracting clay, there are layers. The earth has layers. You have what is the loam soil, clay soil, sand. You have these different layers, right? But remember, the majority is going to be, if it's a swamp, the majority is going to be clay. Chances are, if you're lucky and you have a swamp, chances are very high you have plaster sand there, because that's where plaster sand is harvested from. It's harvested from swamps. So what they're doing to make more money, because lake sand is more expensive, they harvest the clay, right? And then when they reach the sand context, they harvest it, and it's always going to come with clay. The plaster sand will always have clay in it, always. So what they do is, when they wash it or leave it in the rain for so long, the clay component washes itself out. But it's how do you say this thing, when it's like a mask. What you're seeing on the outside, when you dig in, the clay element is still there. It's there. So you end up building your house with clay or plaster sand only. It holds, but there are challenges with it, with that concept as well, as time goes on. Then drainage systems. Now, this one is not so important at this stage, but when you're done, when you build your house, when you manage to build your house, make sure you have water pathways or water walkways. Make sure the water that is coming towards your house is not touching your house so directly. That's why there are some types of roofing that will guarantee protection to your house. And then we have some types of roofing, especially the hidden roof, that is going to have your house affected by water at all times. The reason why we use certain types of roofing, now look at the hipped roof, the one that goes like this. When you roof it, you put a slight extension that we call the eave of the building or the eave of the roof. So water does not directly attack your wall. There are reasons why these things are put in place, but with a hidden roof, your house is fully exposed, fully exposed. That is why even if you've done a good hidden roof, they always have water issues. Not because they didn't do a good job, but because the house itself is exposed so much to the environment itself. It's not protected like that. So it's crucial that you have drainage systems in place, proper drainage systems. You have waterways, you redirect this water. Like you must protect. Building is not enough. You must also protect the building after you've done it. And then, of course, we've talked about budgeting. That is planning. When your budgeting is wrong, this is why you can come with all this money, but because you didn't budget well, that is why personally I charge people to give them BOQs, like a bill of quantities, right? A quotation. A quotation is your map, your guiding map to your project. If you don't have a quotation, like those of you that are building and you just wake up and you're like, let's build, right? When you start to build, you don't know how much sand you need, right? Because you have no map. You just wake up in the morning and the workers are like, "Twetagayo musenyu." Then you buy the sand. We need cement. Like you don't have a plan. If you have a plan, a BOQ, right? If you have a quotation, you already know how much you need because this quotation is going to have how many bags of cement you need and how much it will cost you, and it will have a final total at the end of it, right? Even if you're building in phases, the quotations can be broken down to phases for you. So instead of you just waking up, you think you have a lot of money, you start building, you're just buying things. You have no plan, no BOQ, nothing. You just wake up and you like, the workers are there, give them some semen. And then you end up buying too much or too little. And the money is never going to be enough because you have no plan, you have no budget, you don't know what you need, you don't know what you want. You're just freelancing or you're just running around doing anything and everything except what has to be actually done. Then supervision. Now when you employ people, right, you people don't understand the power of supervision. If you have someone who does not know how to supervise workers, or if you hire people that don't have someone who can actually control them, that can be the biggest cost for you. Loss wise, you can lose so much money. Let me give you an example. Do you know that for those, when you're having a building going on, most of these builders charge per day, per day. I can promise you that if left unchecked, they can do a 1 week's job for 2 weeks. For 2 weeks. Because you have no proper supervision, you have no proper management. Actually, project management is the most important part of construction. If you would rather not even have all the material, but if you have the proper project manager, you can have the most, in fact, all problems in construction, they start from poor management. Poor management. Because workers can refuse to work. You can fail to have the right material on ground because whoever is meant to tell you what you need does not know what you actually need. None of you, or you're all oblivious. If poorly managed, the workers can actually destroy and give you a very bad job. They can. Personally, I am also a project manager. When I have different workers in different sections, right? When I'm hired, when my teams are hired to work, I know everyone's capacity. I know what everyone can do and what everyone can't do. There are people where we go to work for them and they start stealing our workers' contacts. They're like, I want to eliminate Doreen and go direct deal with the worker. Oh, you think this person, just because you saw them build, you think that's what they can actually do. Like, so you want to take them everywhere. Everyone has their capacity. And these people are not going to tell you that this one I can't do. No, they'll just accept because you're paying them. A project manager is very, very crucial to your project. You can lose so much money, lose peace, lose material, lose equipment if you have wrong management. I'm telling you, you can have the best workers, but when they are left unchecked, when they have nobody supervising them, someone they actually respect, you have no project. And trust me, you will have so many issues. So consider correct and proper management. Mm. And when you hire people like me to do a project for you, if you have a problem, it's always important to tell your project manager. Don't tell the workers because people are very emotional. They can literally sink your entire project because they don't like how you're talking to them. They don't like how you're treating them. Some of you, just because you have money to build, you feel like you can address people anyhow. And I promise you, people are so petty to a point that they will directly sabotage you. I have an experience I'm going through right now with something small, but I've been sabotaged just because the person we were working for addressed this person, and this person didn't like how they were addressed. They felt disrespected. If you don't have a bond with your workers in that line, don't force it. It's okay. Do business. There are people in your life that you can talk to anyhow, and they'll take it, they'll be fine. But then there are people who won't take it, who take things very personally. Someone can come to your project just to destroy it. Someone can do something in the process of raising those walls. Someone can do something small, like one tiny thing like this, and they know they know you will not know after until much, much later. You just keep wondering, why is this like this? Why is this happening? Yep, because someone was pissed. Someone was pissed and they did something to hurt you. But this is a permanent problem now. You have a permanent problem on your hands. And most of your projects have issues, but you will never know where the issue came from. You will never know. And they know this. Anyway, I think that's it. If you're just coming in, please visit the other video. Sorry, the beginning of the video. Our videos are supposed to be 30 minutes. It's already 34 minutes of recording. So visit the beginning and learn something. Educate yourself and please take notes. Okay. Tomorrow we shall have a new topic. I'll try to come in. Thank you for watching. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. If you can buy membership, please buy membership. It's cheap. I did memberships. I have no memberships on this page. Okay. So yeah, this is a new thing I'm doing whereby